Now to go ahead and summarize this all up before we take another step, when it comes to creating relationships between tables, it's a two-step process. The first step is to identify which tables you want to hook up or create relationships between, and then go ahead and go to one table and copy the manufacturer ID name of that primary key field, at least that's what I do, and paste it over in the other table. That way it avoids confusion for me when later on I come to this view and I want to link the what's known as the foreign key field in one table to the primary key in the other. I mean, they have the same name, mystery solved, and also keep in mind that you want the same data type as the primary key field in the other table. Once you set that up, then go ahead and come to this view, the relationships, and click and drag from one field, the foreign key field in one table, on top of the primary key in the other, or primary key to foreign key. It doesn't matter because what sets the value is going to be the one, well, the number one in the relationship, and that's going to be the primary key. I mean, who doesn't want to be number one in the relationship that sets the values? That's the primary key field because the field is responsible. They're going to make sure that there's no duplicates. Every value in that field is going to be unique. So you have one unique value, they're number one. And then the other one just has to accept whatever has been generated over here. If it hasn't been generated here, they can't make it up over here because it won't allow them to, because it comes back to the relationship and checks with the boss here and says, okay, do we have any unique values that I can use? Because I'm trying to enter one in and it's coming up and giving me an error saying we don't have it yet. Then the person who sets the rules here is the number one in the relationship. You'll go ahead and the front-end user will type in a new manufacturer ID and the name of the manufacturer, so we can go ahead and enter that manufacturer over in the computers table or the ID. Now see if this makes sense between the two tables. When it comes to computers, if we have a manufacturer, the ID being, let's say, 2, and the name of the manufacturer is Micron, and we bought 5 computers from them, well, over here, we're going to have the manufacturer ID listed 5 times because we're going to have a barcode for each computer, and each barcode is unique. That's why we have the primary key assigned to the asset tag. So it allows duplicates. Now when it comes to relationships that are one-to-one, like the computers with the asset tag to the notes with the primary key field there, then it becomes critical to find out who's the aggressor or the one that extends their hand in this relationship. If I drag, in other words, the primary key field from the computers table over to the notes, then the asset tag from the computers becomes the value setter. It'll still say one-to-one between the two, but the only way that I'm going to find out which table I can set values in for the one-to-one primary key relationships is either knowing that I dragged it from this table over to the asset tag on that table, or actually going into one of these two tables and typing in and trying to generate a unique value, a value that's not already there. If this isn't the aggressor, the value setter between the one-to-one relationship, then the notes table is going to freak out and say, I can't do that. You got to check with the boss. Then you go, oh. Then it must be that I can set the values in the other table in that one-to-one relationship where you type in the unique value and it'll accept it. Then you can come over here in the other table and be able to use that value. Now you'll notice that I've got notes for the computers where the question arises, hey, do I really need to break off the notes from the computers? It depends, because maybe not every computer is going to have a note. And so if not every computer is going to have a note and I don't break off the notes field from the computers table, that's called denormalization, because normalizing is breaking down the tables into the smallest, most meaningful parts that are not going to have any blank values, where I'm going to have blank values from time to time here as far as the notes go, because not every computer is going to have a note on it, because maybe I'm only keeping track of those computers and adding notes that have issues. Or better yet, if you have a client table and some of the clients have a website address and some don't, instead of creating a second table for the clients called like websites, and linking it back to the client's table, because again, not all clients may have websites, you'll end up with some blank values sooner or later. So some experts say it's better to normalize the field into its own table like that, but it's not a set rule. And I'll have a video on normalization standard later on, but for right now I want to introduce it to you. And then finally, to create this one-to-one relationship, I shook things up just a bit so you can identify in a different setting here of some of the issues that may arise when you're trying to create these relationships. So you're looking at the asset tag here and the asset tag over here, and notice that it's spelled the same except the asset and tag has a space over the notes table and it doesn't here. So it doesn't matter as far as the names go, and that's what I'm trying to prove to you here, that when you click and drag from one primary key to another and you let go to create that relationship, it's going to allow you to do it just as long as you have the same data type set between the two primary key fields. So when you enforce it and click create, If they don't have the same data types, it's going to give us a warning. Well, it gives us two warnings. It says the relationships between a one-to-one relationship have to have the same number of fields with the same data types. Well, click OK and click Cancel. Do they have the same number of fields and do they have the same data types? To find out, let's go ahead and open up the computers. Same number of fields, there's 24. Go to the notes, same number of fields, nope. We got bagel there, nothing. How about the same data type? Let's go ahead and right click on the notes, go to the design view, number for the asset tag, right click on the computers, go to the design view, short text for the asset tag. So there's another issue right then and there. So between a one-to-one relationship, you want to make sure you have the same number of fields between the two and the same data type to be able to hook up. And if you're not going to go that route, then it becomes a question of when not to enforce. For me, I'm going to go ahead and always enforce because I like access to keep track of these things, to have data integrity between the tables, so what I do in one table will update the other. But if you're not going to enforce it, which this may be the case, where you want the different data types, but just know when it comes to data entry, because one is short text and one is numbers, the short text allows you to enter in, well, text. But if they enter numbers in the short text field, which allows them to do that, and also numbers in the number field, it may appear the same, but you're still dealing with a different data type, in which case you may not want to enforce this and it will create the relationship. So you can click and drag and then just click create and you're linked up, but it's something that I don't recommend because, well, at least for me in my databases, I like the little police dude that enforces what I do in one that will update over in the other table. And we're looking more specifically at a one-to-one relationship where we don't have the same data type or the same number of records. So if I go ahead and right click and delete that and say yes, and then go to the notes table to update that because I've got no records in there to reflect the same data type as the asset tag, the short text, which, well, since it's all numbers, I probably ought to update that to a number. And number fields are important, especially when it comes to doing functions where we want to calculate one field with another, doing multiplication, subtraction, and so forth, where you can't do that with the text field because even though you can enter numbers in a text field, it's not going to perform the calculations as it will with the number field and entering numbers into that data type field. So there's a heads up for what we're going to be covering later on. So you want to do calculations between fields, make sure it's the number data type and not short text. Again, even though you can enter in numbers in the short text field or data type field.